Family is OSHA compliant and accident free for 2 weeks now.
Perfect. That's great. Now, we just had our little vacation week. Now, you're on location as we had in our last program. You certainly seemed like you were enjoying yourself there. Is that true?
Yeah, we had a great time. Lots of snow, lots of fun. It was good stuff.
We didn't have any snow in Florida. We were down there a little bit, but we did. Prior to going down there, we had that thing stuck up our nose and then had the quick test. And then on the way back, I do believe when they were testing me prior to getting on the airplane, they might have gotten a chunk of brain out because they really did go extra deep on the way out of Florida.
So we found it? Now what?
Exactly. So we got the tests. We're negative. So we're all good. The numbers are going down, so that's good news. And Tim, you were nice enough to remind me today is a special day, isn't it?
That's right. Big party night, Fat Tuesday.
So tonight it's our Fat Tuesday show. Well, I had a big dinner, Tim. I hope you feasted quite well. And we did that. Any other good news you might have had around Greenwich? Are we counting on our two great guests, Karen Hirsh and Kurt Putnam, to give us the rundown of the good news in the town of Greenwich?
I'm sure they'll give us some good news. I'm really full. I had chicken and waffles tonight. It was good stuff. Very extra special for a Tuesday night.
Well, that's all right. Chicken and waffle night on a Tuesday.
That's right.
Cool. Well, let's get Karen Hirsh onto the program so we can talk to her. Hello, Karen.
Hello. Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Oh, come on. How are you? I've been trying to get you on this program for a while, haven't I? You've just been too busy for us. You're a busy little beaver, aren't you? Doing all sorts of things.
I try.
That's good. Well, you serve. We work together on the Board of Education, which certainly over the last period of time during all this crazy stuff had us really busy. But I do say though, we got to meet in different circumstances where your son was part of the rugby program that I was coaching. And I remember it was a freshman game. I think I was coaching in one of the freshman games, filling in for the freshman coach because I think he was sick or something like that. And I remember you coming up and introducing yourself and offering to help. Now, a lot of times when you're the coach, a lot of parents come up and they sort of offer to help, trying to maybe better their kid's position on the team. But no, Karen, you were one of the most helpful parents I have had involved in our program, where right away you came up, offered help. You said you'd do anything that we needed you to do as far as helping the program. So it was a very, very nice experience meeting you early on. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, I did everything from team photography. I got one of the boys actually got me in the face with a ball, unfortunately, and then spent the rest of the game apologizing every time he ran past, to try to helping raise funds for the program. It's an incredible program, and I was so grateful to have the opportunity to have met you on the sidelines.
Well, it was so much fun I had in that program, and I can't talk enough about how much fun I had. But one of the things that really made it enjoyable for me was interacting with most of the parents. Now, obviously, we had some parents that were unique, but we had also some really great, helpful parents and some fun ones too. And you certainly fall into that category, which was great.
Well, I have to say it was one of the having the opportunity to be participatory in a program like that was incredible. Having to hear you when you spoke to all the parents every year at the beginning, how inclusive it was, how there was a place for every single person on the field, no matter what position that the guys were filling, and then the girls team that started as well. It's such an incredible program because everybody feels this sense of camaraderie, and it's not just within our own walls or our own fields. It's across the border. Whenever the guys travel to play other teams, it's very inclusive. It's actually, it really was. It was a wonderful experience, and we're looking forward to the spring season.
Well, yes, I'm looking forward to being a spectator on that, but that's going to be great. I did miss, I couldn't coach anymore because of the Board of Education. I was still looking forward to being a spectator in the last season, but we now have to look forward to this season coming up. But you know what you're talking about when it comes to being involved in the school and kids' participation, because you have put your hand up for PTA council. Run over some of the things that you volunteered for and some of the wonderful things you've done for our schools, for our kids, and for all the various programs, not just your support on the rugby program, but all the different programs you had prior to the Board of Education.
I think you probably know, and we've talked about this before, I'm not the biggest fan of self-promotion. I prefer to just get things taken care of and done as opposed to having my name necessarily involved. But, it started when I first moved here to get involved within the schools. I joined the PTA. I ended up as PTA president at Glenville. I did the yearbook for years, the full editor there, and then stepped forward to run to be on a PTA council, on the executive board there, and ended up being the president of PTA council for quite a few years, and having the opportunity to sort of get to know everybody involved in education within the town, as well as all of the other individuals who really help our community come together and move forward, from members of the BET, our selectmen, RTM members, and state representatives. It's been an incredible opportunity that I've been sort of given along the way. And I don't know, I was always raised to be able to give back. When you are as lucky as an individual as I have been in my life, my responsibility is to give back as much as possible to others. And so that's what I do. And that's what I hope my children see me doing, and will take on that mantle when they grow up too.
Well, the one thing we certainly have in common is our desire to give back in our community. And the thing that you and I talk about and touch on very often in our relationships as we work together is that we look at things and see things and have different views on things, but the both of us it makes both of us better hearing the other one's point of view on issues. And I look at things from a totally a different set of eyes, and you look at it a certain way, and we don't always agree on everything, but we certainly enjoy hearing the path of the thought process of getting to where you are. So and where I am. So those exchanges we have leading up to issues that we need to find some solution which is best for our community, just interacting in a positive way, in a way where you use these things on the side of your head, which is great because you're a good listener. And I love the way you express your points. And I don't know, as I said, I don't always agree, but we like to find some compromise. If you make a legitimate, a strong and convincing argument, I'll certainly listen to it and possibly find middle ground on issues. And I enjoy talking to you on those issues. And also another thing is the fact that you prepare more than most people is extremely helpful when it comes to working on issues, because sometimes there's a lot of data tossed at us. And I know you've read it 4 or 5 times over, when maybe I've done once or twice on a scan. So it's always good that you have the details and things I might have missed, and we exchange that information. So it's good working together.
I think that comes from my background. I was in marketing and PR for over a decade. I worked in entertainment PR, and you never walked into a situation, you never walked into an interview with a client without having done all of your homework and all of that research to make sure that you knew every detail from both sides and both points of view. And which is what I do when we go into board meetings or any of the committees that I sit on, is I reach out, I ask people questions. I like to listen. I like to hear both sides of points of view. And, we have talked about many things over the years, and I feel like I've learned more from those conversations oftentimes than the hours of research I put in before I sit down at a meeting.
That's good, and that's useful, and that's the way, and that's something the discourse we don't have in a lot of times in issues today. Now I believe we have political differences. We see things a little bit different politically, but you're well trained on that, considering you have a mixed marriage when it comes to politics. You pointed that out when to me. So you're used to having other concepts and ideas and listening to, and I do appreciate that you do that well, and it's an example to what our society needs to do more of. We might not agree on things, but we have to respect other people's opinions, and you clearly respect the opinions I have, whether they're different than your opinions or the same. So that's an example to everybody. I do enjoy working with you on that, with us talking about things in that way.
Well, thank you. That's quite the compliment.
Well, thank you. Well, let's talk a little about you, more about you than current times, because that's kind of what we try to do. We try to introduce Karen Hirsh to our community. Now, everyone sees what you do in your volunteer capacity, the stuff you just described, always there when people need you. But how did you get here? How did you get to Greenwich? Where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up? Give me a little about yourself and run us through that, because we don't get to hear enough about people in our community. So let me hear a little about you, Karen Hirsh.
I was very lucky. I grew up in New York City, so I'm a city kid, and I had the incredible opportunity to have my backyard be New York City's museums and all sorts of opportunities there, arts and theater and music, and really kind of helped me prepare also for my volunteer career there. And from there, I went to Cornell, actually, upstate New York. I should say my mother well, I'll get back to that. But I went to Cornell. I studied psychology. My background is I have a degree in early childhood development, and that was always my plan, was to go become a therapist. And I work with abnormal behavior and management.
So that's why we get along. We're used to working with abnormal people. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I ended up working in the world of entertainment for many, many years, and thus my degree came in handy. But I worked in entertainment PR for over a decade. I helped start an internet division in a couple of places that I worked at. And then I moved to Greenwich. My husband went to Greenwich High School. It was his dream to have our children walk the same halls and to graduate from our stadium in the same manner that he did. And I will tell you, my husband, who likes to tell everybody, he was the salutatorian the year he graduated. His name is still up on a plaque on the hallway at the Greenwich High School that my children have to walk by and acknowledge every time. That the day my son started high school, and he's a senior now, there were tears in my husband's eyes. And I understand that is what makes Greenwich this incredible community. The people that have lived here, their families have lived here, they come back, they want to raise their children here. And it's such an incredible opportunity for us to be able to provide for those families and those children a future here that they want to bring their children back to. So, I look forward to the fact that, you asked me for good news. Tomorrow's good news is tomorrow's my son's 18th birthday. We've gotten some college acceptances. We're waiting for a few more to make some decisions. And then in a couple of months, I'm going to have the opportunity to hand him his diploma. Hopefully.
How cool is that? That's going to be great.
He's been forewarned I will cry all over him and several of his friends who were in his house, and they have been cried on by me at several graduation ceremonies that I've had the opportunity to be participatory in.
Yeah, Ryan's already called and said, if my mom's crying too much, Coach Kelly, can you give me my diploma? I said,
probably. He tell you to sweep the leg.
Exactly. Well, that's great. I mean, as you talked about, what's great about this community is people contribute like yourself and people who are your heart's in it. You didn't grow up here. I didn't grow up here, but now this is our hometown. It's certainly my kids' hometown, and we've made it our community. And I'll put my hand up. I'm the unlikely Board of Ed member. I'm not a very good student, but I guess I kind of did work at the school, and I certainly understand the sports side of things and some other features which I can contribute, which I'm proud I could do. But I'm so glad I've got a good group of Board of Ed members that I could work with and help me where I have some weaknesses, and hopefully I can help them where maybe I can strengthen them in some categories.
Well, you certainly always add spice to the conversation, and you have helped me see things in a different way than I would have normally. And more importantly than that, you've helped educate me on many things that we discuss in ways that things that I know nothing about. So it's been fantastic, I think. If I can learn something new every day, it's a good day.
Absolutely.
That's my mantra.
Now, Karen, because we're going to invite Kurt Putnam on in a second, not quite yet, but in a second. But if you have something in mind that you want to talk about, something that you want to promote, maybe something you're involved in, is there anything that you'd like to talk about specifically?
Honestly, it's been the topic of conversation lately is the Board of Education budget. It's a process that most people don't know a lot about. And I was going to say, as the former president of PTA Council, not that I'm, shilling for them or anything, but I think, it's fantastic because they really step forward in 100 different ways to support our students and our schools and our educators. They are joining with the League of Women Voters to host a forum on the school budget. It's sort of a way to educate the public, whomever would like to attend virtually, how the budget process works here. And that's going to be on February 24th at 7 p.m. And I really urge most people to check that out. It's an incredible opportunity to sort of really learn the inner workings of Greenwich and how we fund the projects that we put forward and why certain things get funded in different ways and sort of the whole process. And it's also a great way to learn ways to get involved in town government here and in the decisions that we make.
Well, that's great, and hopefully people will attend. Maybe we can text Tim or something like that and let him know. Put something at the bottom of the page. But right now, it's legendary, famous Coach Putnam is now going to join us. He's been the boys rugby coach. I'm sorry, boys soccer coach at Greenwich High School now for a countless number of years. I couldn't even imagine how many years it comes out. 20?
20 years, yeah.
And yet, you and I have never crossed paths. It's
no, we haven't, Karen. No, not at all. I've obviously coached quite a few boys that have had parents that have volunteered on the PTA and various other bodies as well. So no, we haven't met. But yeah, I've started getting a wrinkle for every year as well more recently. So yeah, 20 years in, Joe, and I've known you almost that long.
That's true. We got to meet each other. I moved here about 23 years ago, and just early on, my kids were involved in soccer. I had played a little when I was younger, so I jumped in as usual and got involved. Yep. Now, Kurt, we're gonna say goodbye to Karen in a second, but what we try to do is have you maybe pop a question or two to Karen, or something that might have made you curious in our conversation, and then we'll say goodbye to Karen. What do you got, Kurt? Anything for us?
Yeah, I would say that probably the biggest thing, Karen, is being involved in so many boards, and you get to be exposed to so many different people, and the challenge it must present itself when there's certain things that might be high on an agenda, but there's equally as many other important things on an agenda. And just like basic economics, there's scarcity, and there's an opportunity cost between choosing one thing or another thing. And just kudos to you guys at the end of the day that you managed to somehow come out at the end with decisions that you have to make and know the things that you have to forego, because unfortunately you can't do absolutely everything.
Well, I was going to say, I think the same is would be for you, Kurt, as well as Joe. I mean, as coaches, you guys know this is what you train your players to do. That sometimes, taking the shot for yourself if isn't the right choice. You got to work together as a team to make things move forward for the entire team and what's best for the overall. You do the same thing every day out there on the fields with our kids, and you're teaching them those valuable lessons, which is we try to do as adults. So I'm sure it's not as easy to do it as a coach either.
No, I mean, Joe's obviously coached a long time as well, and I mean we're dealing with competing egos and needs, and the fact is everybody wants to be on the field, and in that moment as a coach, you do what you think is right. And hindsight's 20/20. It's always easy to. I mean, I'm the worst after the fact, with my assistant Ray Marshall about we could have done this, we should have done that. What about this? What about that? And the fact is, in the moment, you do what you think is right, and I'm sure it's when you reach decisions, that involve money and involve kids and involve priorities, that you're doing the very best that you can with what you have in front of you. And I would assume that probably, an operating principle would be, who does it benefit the most, i.e. the most people, not a particular sector of the, community, but how can we get the biggest bang for our buck to affect and benefit the most amount of people? And something else has to be put off to the next year's budget cycle. That must be really challenging, those competing needs from different facets of the community.
Well, Kurt, if I can only tell you the meetings we're having.
Oh, no, I can imagine. I mean, when I stood in front and gave a speech on the turf field things, for me, that's a priority.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that one.
Exactly.
We just got that information from the Parks and Rec study. So
you
have a lot to say on that too.
Yeah, and then you think, but there's also funds that need to be allocated to various other places as well. And like you said, guys, I picked up on the whole open-minded, collaborative piece of listening to each other, because ultimately that's what you have to do. It can't be my way or the highway, because you'll never end up getting anything done for the greater good of the community. It will all be in small pieces, and that's no good in the end.
That's true. Well, Karen,
I look forward to learning a little bit more about you, Kurt. I know it's a pleasure. So thank you, Joe.
We'll hear lots about it. We go way back. But Karen, it's Kurt's time to shine. So we're going to thank you for joining us on the program, and we'll be talking to you later in the week for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, Karen.
Have a nice evening, guys.
Yeah, thanks for all the work.
Bye-bye. So, Kurt, we go way back. You know what?
Yeah, way back.
Because my daughters, I was doing the Saturday morning soccer coaching thing, and I just love coaching sports. And I guess I got myself as involved as I could be as I advanced more into not just coaching, but then I went and served on the board of, I guess it was the GSA at the time, Greenwich Soccer Association.
Yeah, we're still around, Joe. We're still kicking strong.
So Greenwich Soccer Association, I thought we combined and became Greenwich United.
No, what we did, Joe, is that was combined back in like around 2004, really more for the older teams. because, both sides of the town were struggling to put out competitive teams at U13, U14 and beyond. And then we always had the kind of the goal really of putting out high school age teams for those players that wanted to carry on playing soccer but may play a second sport. One of them being rugby, one of them being another one being lacrosse.
Yep.
And I think that you and I, for as passionate as we are about our kind of first sports, we're also passionate about kids playing sports. And I think that the difference with you and myself is that we tried to always see the glass half full rather than half empty. So if as much as you want kids to play soccer, I also want kids to be able to have the opportunity to play other sports as well. And if it means that we can provide a soccer program that's competitive, but maybe they attend practice once or twice a week instead of 3 times a week because they've got another varsity sport they're playing, then that's what they should do.
Well, sports are meant to be fun. And you know what? The kids have all sorts of pressure at school. They've got pressures at home. There's so many pressures. And we could I know I used to really enjoy making the program. And we had a nice run. We had a very successful program, but it wasn't based on a lot of making the kids feel uncomfortable. It was the absolute opposite. We made the kids feel really good about themselves. We made them excited about being there, and we made them buy into the program by making them believe, and it was true, it wasn't just made up, that they were part of the decision-making process. So we brought them into everything, and they didn't have to come to practice. They wanted to come to practice. If they didn't come to practice, they felt bad and were really apologetic. I'm like, don't worry, you never have to come to practice. But they came, and more of them came, and then more and more of them came, and then we had so many. So it was I really enjoyed my experience, and I'm envious of somebody like yourself who is so involved in sport. Now, you're not just involved in soccer at the high school. You're the athletic director at Whitby School.
Yeah, I've been on and off doing that for 22 years. I've had various roles there, Joe. I've been assistant head of school. I've been head of the upper school. I did some secondary counselling at one point, but now I've gone back to running the athletics and the co-curricular programs, and I also teach middle school mathematics.
Oh, cool.
Well, I said to my mum at one point, I better put those degrees to use at some point.
Can't just do soccer the rest of your life.
No, exactly. So, the grey matter up there gets used every once in a while when I'm teaching mathematics to the 7th and 8th graders at the school. So, but yeah, totally agree with you. I mean, I remember the first day that I stepped onto Greenwich High School way back in the day with Jim DiCarlo as the AD, and he interviewed a few people. He ended up giving me the position. Obviously, I jumped at it, and Whitby School supported me for the last 20 years in doing that. So I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity for them to know that coaching older boys and developing them means a lot to me, and it's actually helped me. I believe at Whitby, it's helped me, be a better teacher and a better coach and a better advisor and mentor for the younger kids. Because I get to see it from all kind of angles. But
well, speaking about younger kids, let me just jump in there for a second. That's the key component to a cohesive organization within the town. Because you just don't do the high school. You don't leave it to chance of what's happening at the younger ages. You get involved. You are the president of the GSA, or what is?
Yep. I took over. Oh, who did I take over from? Can't even remember his name now, but it was about three or four presidents before I got there, Joe. Right. And then we got down to the to the brass tacks, and it was okay. Well, we're down to a board of about 6 people. Stuart couldn't do it, but he's still there. So I said, all right, put my name in for it. I'll do it. And I've been the president probably now for about the last 5 years or so.
That's so good. The direction of where you want the program to evolve to at the high school, you're able to work on things that don't get lost or don't get misdirected because you're having them in preparation for what they're going to be like when they get to the high school. Yeah,
fortunate. I mean, we the program itself, Old Greenwich's program and GSA's program, fundamentally runs from kids when they can first start running around and just enjoy the fun of just kicking a ball or whatever it happens to be, dribbling, kicking, running with it. I mean, really not that bothered when they're 3 years of age. And then we merged. That's what we did, Joe. We merged, and now we've merged at the under 12 age group. So really, we have a track now where we can see the kids coming all the way through from under 12 through under 18. And obviously, as I said to you before, it's important that kids get to make their own choices and decisions. So we do have players that play in other programs as well. As we've had also kids who leave to go and play academy programs where, no longer they can play sports anymore at the high school, particularly soccer, because it's the in-season sport. And, I think that's an important part. When you've got a kid that can raise their level of play to that level, and my last one I had was Kai Lammers, who now plays at UPenn. He's got to be pushed on. And I know you do exactly the same for any of your players. If there's a place for them to go where they can further their game, become more successful, and open doorways for them in the future, you got to do that, and I would say
it's part of your responsibility as a coach to make sure
absolutely.
that they have the best path, or you can help push them in the best path, because they can't always find it themselves.
No.
Because high school kids sometimes don't always make the best decisions.
Correct, Joe. And sometimes, the parent and the player is actually looking for you to kind of push them through that door to be the one that says, no, this is what you should go and do. Remember, the high school's always going to be there. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work out, no door's ever closed on any of my players. And I've had players that have left and gone and played academy and then come back and then gone and played academy again and then said, Coach, I want the senior year at the high school. The experience is too great. Can I come back again? I'm like, of course you can. You're running to high school.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So, but that in itself is a challenge, though. I mean, we went from 20 years ago. I kind of put my piece down. I cut seniors my first year, and that didn't go over too well. And that was a pretty bold move in the first year, but that pretty much set the bar high of expectation. And, Joe, every year we go 150, 160 players come and try out.
Yep.
And I can tell you that's the worst part of the job. Seeing them come and play, seeing the faces, the energy, the excitement, that's what you live for. But then when it comes to decision day, it's absolutely brutal. And I hate it. It for a weekend, I am tearing myself to shreds. I mean, Paul Ray Marshall and I, we put rosters out of 35 kids for a team. It's absolutely crazy. We show up in a bus and people are like, did you bring your JV team with you? Go, no, this is just varsity. JV's on their own bus.
Exactly.
How many players you got in the program? Oh, about 100, 105. 105 players in your program? How many tried out? Well, about 160. We've only got like 75 players who try out. What are you doing down there? I'm like, no.
It's been great with certainly on the rugby side of things, keeping as many kids as we could. Obviously, it'd be heartbreaking to cut them. I didn't know with the nature. There's a slightly different culture in the two sports that I think
very international though, Joe.
Oh, both international. Both.
I love that. I love that part about the community.
Yep. No, it's great. But certainly all the stuff that you do is I of all people recognize how good it is and such a positive influence on kids. But let's talk a little about you. Now, when I first met you, I couldn't figure out, I thought you had a speech impediment, but then I found out that you have an accent. So tell us where you come from. Where is it you're originally from? What brought you to Greenwich and how'd you get here? Give me your path here.
Yeah. So I grew up in a county in England called Essex. You could go Google that, known as Essex Boys. I was one of the few that actually left and went to university from my school. There were only 5 of us. I was one of the 5. And to be honest, after graduating, Joe, I took coaching licenses when I was in college. I played college soccer, and then I came over here for 92, 93, 94. And then when I graduated college, I had to go get a job. And it's like, what am I going to go do? So I went into finance. Was in investment management, and I decided, after a few years, that maybe investment management wasn't for me anymore. So I went back to school, got my graduate degree in education, but in economics and business and finance and stuff, and went into to teach a couple of years. And then I got a call from Ray Franklin, who still heads up Eastern FC, said about coming over to coach. And at the time I had no responsibilities back in England. So, I decided, okay, well, let's give this a shot. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back. And I've been here ever since.
Oh, great.
One thing led to the other. I got a job at Whitby School in December of 98. And I've stayed put in the community ever since.
Oh, fantastic. Well, say hello to Ray for me. I haven't spoken to him in many, many years. He's a good guy. I always liked him. He's a good fellow.
Yes. Yeah, and he's still kicking along as well.
Well,
last time I saw him was probably about maybe a year and a half ago, and he was coaching a middle school team at Masters. And I roll in with my team as well, and because he double take, because we hadn't seen each other up until probably for about 10 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah, and we looked at each other, and I'm like, oh, I don't believe it. What's up, old man? And he said, oh, man, look at you. You can talk. Because he remembers bringing me over as a 21-year-old.
Of course. Well, the stuff you do for the kids and just to maintain a coaching position successfully as long as you have, and I had working at the school, I only heard good things from the athletic director all the way to the other families, because as you pointed out before, we share families because we encourage the kids to play soccer and you encourage the kids to play rugby. So we share families, and everyone would say wonderful things about you as a coach, and the kids would all prosper within the program. And yes, there is the kind. Some kids thought they should play, some kids thought they should not play, but you know what? It all comes down to the fact that you run a fair, successful. Correct. Your product that you put out every year is continuously good. It's a positive product. The attitude's great, and I'm happy that I already mentioned earlier on in our conversation pre-program. COVID really makes you think that going out for a beer with somebody is a lot more important than we once took it. And I think we certainly I owe you a beer, and we have to get out and have one of these days coming up. That's for sure.
Absolutely, Joe. I mean, we took that for granted way back in the day, going out for meetings. I saw Mark Grun just posted in, actually, and because he was a former board member as well, and we took it for granted going out after board meetings and kind of have a diffusing scenario back in the bar and joke a little bit about some of the things that have been going on, and then all of a sudden this year, this stuff came about, and now you're absolutely petrified, really, of going out, even if you can. So you have to resort to keeping in real tight cohorts and doing some things at your house. But you're absolutely right. You do take things for granted, and we never should. And I think that's the thing about being involved with sports, Joe, for me and you, and doing something that we're passionate and we love. That don't really take it for granted, because you never know when it might not be there. And I agree with you. We both run programs with a lot of integrity and honesty, and being consistent with our players and being fair. And, that's what I've always said to the players and the parents. So that, for me, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day where you play your soccer and what other sports that you play. I can only go on what it is that I see in this tryout window.
Absolutely.
And I will take what I see in the tryout window and make my decisions based on that. So everything else that goes on really is your life to spend it the way that you best see fit, whatever it is that you do and whoever you end up playing your sports with.
Well, we're lucky to have you as a positive influence on our kids, on our soccer program, on our Whitby school, on the youth program in town. And also, we're lucky enough to have you as a partner in Cardinal soccer camps, and those take place during the summertime. Could you talk maybe a little about that as far as promoting something that we might want to get kids, or what age group does it address? And tell us something about that.
Yeah, so obviously, Joe, Stuart and I set this up about 15 years ago. Really just to meet the needs of kids in the town and whatever, primarily. And obviously that's grown to be, a pretty big camp program now. So last summer, we ended up running 2 sites, one with boys and one with girls, which actually was the first time we've really done that. And that worked very, very successful. I have to say we, pitched the state early on about giving us bigger group numbers and bigger totals to run with. And the fact that we are a state licensed camp as well and in good standing, they obviously were happy to do that. So, I'll report back. We're going to be going ahead again this year, pretty much at the moment, all the same standards and protocols and safety elements all in place. And, just look forward to a great summer again. We're fortunate as well. All of our coaches are all local. So for us, it's a big deal for us that Stuart and I are both at the camps, but we have guys that are embedded in the local communities. Not necessarily just Greenwich, but, in Westchester County, in Stamford, in New Canaan, wherever it might be. And so, these guys are working with kids all the time. So, for us, it's a good product, we believe, we put out. And guys who generally love coaching kids, and can go from the silliest of games, from the youngest of kids, to doing stuff that's really tactical with the oldest kids. We have the whole range of it. And, again, we're blessed. I mean, we do something that we love, and we've got a bunch of guys who are committed to us and are dedicated and love what they do. And, long may it continue.
Well, that's success. That success is based on people buying in, people enjoying what they're doing.
Right.
And as long as you have that, it's good. And so, I mean, if there's anything I could do to help you out along the way, I know our athletic director, you've got a great relationship with him at the high school, and you guys have been working together very well for, well, he's probably there 15 years or so. You've got a few years.
Yeah. Yep. I would say Gus is probably there about 15 odd years now. Yeah.
So if there's anything along the way that you need my help on, I'm certainly willing to do that. But we'll have to put a high priority on going out, grabbing a beer, and we might even invite Mark Rund to join us because he's been.
Yeah, it would be nice, to be honest, if we could try and track down some of the original old folk and see if we can get them out. I mean, Mark's probably had about 3 hip replacements and 3 hip replacements by now.
He doesn't have a natural part in his body left. He's had everything replaced.
No, exactly. We're probably definitely to open him out of the car.
Exactly. Well, we try to keep the show, Kurt, we try to keep the show to about a half hour. Tim usually comes in about now, and he's got a question or two. Usually brings the intellectual level of our program to a higher level than we're at now. So we need to hear from him. And Karen's rejoining us. Karen, what do you got? After that wonderful interview that Kurt gave, you must have something to say to Kurt after what he just talked about. We know Tim has something. There's something brewing in Tim's mind right now.
Well, Tim looks ready to rock, so I'll let him go first.
Well, I brought Karen back because I did find a link because she wanted to promote the school budget forum. So I made this little bit.ly link so they can find out more of that, and that link will also be in the comments. So anybody rewatching can just look at the comments there and find that link. And then I hope I found the right one for the GSA, which it turned out to be a
Greenwich Travel Soccer. I believe you got that right, Tim.
Greenwich Travel Soccer. So there that is too, and we'll make sure that gets into the comments.
He's good. That man is good. Tim, you are good.
Very good.
Trying to earn that beer that you guys are talking about. I need to be
Tim is a lot easier.
I want in on that. I won't be drinking the beer, but
absolutely.
Absolutely.
This is the thing, you notice that we've just chatted for 20 minutes, Joe, and all we've done is laughed and smiled all the way through.
Well, it's the good news program. If you have a theme in a program that is just good news, you keep everyone away from the bad stuff, it's a good thing, and we should do more of that in life. You turn on TV, you watch all these news stations, all they do is talk about things that happen that are bad situations, things they disagree with. We should be more about positive things and supporting each other and saying good things to each other. And because you know what? All the people right now, the 4 faces on this program here, only deserve to have good things said about them. And they deserve it because they're good people.
Well, the good thing with all of this smiling, and you burn more calories smiling, I get less time on the Peloton tomorrow morning now.
Perfect.
Well, if you have any tips on how to get my husband to purchase one for me, let me know. I've been working on that.
I'm sure you can figure that out, Karen.
Yeah, I won't go there. I'll let you figure that one out, Karen. Excellent. All right, perfect. Well, everybody, thank you for once again an upbeat, positive, happy show. And everyone in this group right now will be contacted sometime when the COVID virus is no longer part of our society, our culture, and we'll all get out and have that beer.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
For that, Joe.
See you guys.
Okay.
Pleasure.